Morning, everyone. My name is Scott Jackson, and I am the Undersheriff here in Gunnison County. I'm going to explain a few things about the Sheriff's Department and then talk about our common calls. But first off, I'm going to introduce the Sheriff's Department. Gunnison County is the fifth largest county in the state. It makes up over 3,200 square miles. And we've got parts or all of 5 different wilderness or primitive areas in the county. The Sheriff's Department is divided up into several different divisions, and I'll briefly talk about each one of those. We have a patrol division, detention division, and then what we call useful public service, UPS. The patrol division is comprised of 12 officers. We've got 1 investigator and then 1 officer stationed in the Marble Somerset area. And in order for us to reach Marble Somerset, we've had that officer over there for probably 35 years. I think we've had one over there, because for us here in Gunnison to respond to a call in Marble or Somerset, especially in the wintertime, is a 2 or 3 hour drive over 92 or going down to Montrose and coming up through Delta and that way, and it would take forever to get over there. So it serves the people over there real well to have an officer over that way. And he also gets help with the Delta Sheriff's Department and also the Pitkin Sheriff's Department if he needs assistance, or he assists them. We also have a contract with Mount Crested Butte, and they've got 8 officers up there, and they service everything from Crested Butte south north. And that program has been in effect. I think I started in 1979, and I think we had that program going on then, that contract with the mountain. We have a detention division, which is made up of 14 officers, 1 captain, and 2 sergeants. The detention facility has a capacity of about 80 people, and right now we're running about 20 inmates in there now. There's a big push not to put people in jail, to try and bond them out, PR bonds and that type of thing. But also to remember about the detention facility is we've got to keep misdemeanors separate from felons, pre-sentenced from sentenced, work release, school release. We don't and male, female, and we do not house any juveniles. They are taken to a juvenile holding facility. I think it's down in Grand Junction. We also have 3 search and rescue teams that we depend on. The sheriff is in charge of search and rescue in Gunnison County, and we've got Western Mountain Search and Rescue, which is Western Colorado University. I always have to remember the university part. They're a big help to us, all of them are. But then we've got West Elk Search and Rescue, which is out of Paonia, Somerset. And then we've got Crested Butte Search and Rescue. So depending on where the call's at, we'll call the nearest search team and get them out. If they're shorthanded, we may call in additional teams. We could call in West Elk. They'll come over here, call in Crested Butte Search and Rescue. And they also respond to different jurisdictions. It's not unusual for them to go to different, they've gone a lot down to Saguache to help them out, I think it's Custer County that's got Crestone and Crestone Needles and all that for climbing accidents. So they do a real good job for us, and they operate under the Sheriff's Department. Useful public service is, we have a woman that runs that. She does a real good job with that, but she monitors community service. When someone is sentenced to do community service, they get 10 or 20 or 30 hours, whatever it is, she monitors where they're working at. She's got a list of different places that are acceptable with the courts for them to work at, and then she makes sure they're there, and she makes sure they put in the time that they are sentenced to. We also have 2 administrative assistants. They're the front end office people, and they're probably the first people you're going to deal with when you come up to the sheriff's office with some questions. Part of their responsibilities are they fingerprint and photograph people for the concealed weapons applications. They handle all of our civil process subpoenas and summonses, that type of thing, that they log in, and then the deputies get them, and we end up serving them. The deputies do, and I think we served 780 some papers last year, if I remember right. They handle the press releases, they do the dog registrations, and they prep reports to go to the district attorney in that. And in 2019, we recently added through a grant a courthouse security officer. So he's there pretty much Monday through Friday during court hours from 8 to 4. And I think that's been another pretty successful program. He's made a number of arrests at the courthouse, believe it or not, people coming in with warrants. And he's also confiscated a number of items, weapons that are not permitted in there, and some drugs. Now I'm going to kind of talk about our most frequent calls. And what I did is I went through our incident reports for 2019. And I just ran through them alphabetically, and I'll talk about, now these are incident reports that we've taken a report on. I went through them alphabetically, and I'll start out with the A's, and those are called agency assists. We had 60 reports of agency assists. Those are reports where a deputy goes out and helps. It might be an outlying county, Swatch or Hinsdale County. When the sheriff's house got hit by an avalanche down in Hinsdale County, we had officers going down there to help patrol for, I think, a week or a week and a half, assisting them. But it might be the city police department if they need help on a DUI arrest, or the state patrol, or Park Service, or Forest Service, or Parks and Wildlife, Health and Human Services. Those are assist calls that we go on. We had 8 reported burglaries. We had 7 domestic violence reports. We had 30 DUI arrests. And all of our officers are certified in what they call SFST, that's Standard Field Sobriety Testing. And that's kind of the basics, a standard for processing a DUI. And that's the old nystagmus with, you watch the tip of my finger with your eyes, and you watch for jiggling in their eyes, the walk and turn, the one-legged stand. All of our officers are trained in that, and now we're taking it to the next step. The last few months we've had everybody but 2 officers, and they will be through what they call the A-RIDE program. I think it's at the end of April, and that's the Advanced Roadside Impaired Driving Enforcement. And that's to also help with not just alcohol impairment, but drug impairment. So they're trained on that, and with what they determine, if they determine drugs or suspect drugs, they can call in what the term is DRE, a drug recognition expert. With the legalization of marijuana, we're dealing with more impaired driving by drugs, not just alcohol. And we have 1 DRE that's on our department. And that's a pretty extensive process. That takes about 2 weeks of schooling. And what they do is they look for pupil size, respirations, clamminess of skin, heart rate, a number of different things, and that helps categorize what type of drug that they suspect that person may be under or influenced by. We had probably a handful of identity theft and fraud reports. And those, the biggest thing I can say on that is, if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. If somebody's calling up and wanting something, if they're asking for any kind of personal information, don't give it. Don't give out bank accounts. Don't give out dates of birth. Don't give out any of that stuff over the phone. I think we're getting less reports of that because I think people are getting educated on that. We also get, I guess you'd call them gift cards. I'm not that well schooled in them because I don't use them. Google cards or gift cards where they call up and they say, hey, your loved one's in trouble. Can you run down to the store? Can you get one of these cards? Scratch off the back and give me that number. When you do that, that money is gone, and those are very, very hard to solve. So if somebody's calling to solicit money or information over the phone, don't buy it. We had 200 informational reports, and those range from anything from a motorist assist to disputes to overdue parties, medical calls, welfare checks. We'll get loved ones from different parts of the state or country calling up and saying, hey, I haven't heard from somebody, my uncle or whatever, in a week or 2 weeks. Can you go check on them? We run out and check on them, make sure they're okay. And that can also be lost or found property. We get a number of things, keys, wallets, cell phones that get turned into us, and we try and track the owners down on that. We had 2 reported sexual assaults. We had 18 thefts. We had 18 traffic infractions. And that's not all the traffic tickets we write. Those traffic infractions that generate a report are if someone witnesses bad driving behavior, a bad pass, stop sign violation, etc., and they're willing to go to court and they want to write a statement, we will write a report on that, take their statement, attach it to that report. We go to court with them, but we can't testify what happened. We didn't witness it. They have to be willing to go testify in court on the improper driving that they saw, so those generate a report. We had 9 trespass reports. We had 14 violations of protection orders, and generally those are restraining orders, what I call them restraining orders. Usually those are between husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, where the person's been ordered not to have any contact with that person, and they violated that, and they can be arrested for that. The other types that we see probably more so of are a violation of a protection order where the court has ordered someone not to be under the influence of drugs or of alcohol, and we come into contact with them and they're drunk or they're high or whatever, and it's ordered through the protection order that they cannot do that, they can be subject to arrest. We had 42 reports for warrant arrests, and those were split pretty evenly, where it might have been a traffic stop or for whatever reason, we came into contact with them, they had a warrant, we arrested them. But those were split pretty evenly between in-county warrants and out-of-county, which can be in the state or nationwide. I'll talk briefly about the dogs. All dogs in Gunnison County, in unincorporated Gunnison County, are required to be licensed. And you can do that by coming up to the sheriff's office. You talk to one of our administrative assistants, and what you need to bring is we ask for a photograph of the dog and current rabies tag. And you can go to the Gunnison County, the sheriff's office website and pull up the form, the registration form, fill that out and bring that in. I think the costs on that are $20 for an unneutered dog and $10 for a neutered dog. And then just kind of a quick thing on, we're coming up not too far off on burning season with ditches and fence lines and that type of thing. In Gunnison County, you're required, if you're going to have a controlled burn, to call our dispatch center, let them know when you're going to start the burn, and then they ask you to call when the burn is over with. So if they see smoke in the area, we know somebody's burning there. If you're going to burn, my suggestion is see if you can have somebody help you, or if you have some kind of source of water. If you can have a garden hose going out to where you're going to burn, or a truck. I've seen some people with trucks and a 200-gallon water tank and a pump in the back that really can help prevent a fire from getting out of control. And then when you're done burning, call the dispatcher and let them know they're done. So if they see smoke, was it a fire that was rekindled or another fire that hasn't been reported, then we go check on them. Also, when you call in, if it's a red flag warning day, that's a day when there's low humidity, high heat, and high winds. You cannot burn. You can't do any open burning, and the dispatcher will let you know it's a red flag day and you can't burn. I also was asked, and I put some of the forms up there, by our emergency services coordinator to briefly touch on the Code Red program. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with it or if you all are maybe, but with fewer and fewer landlines, it's really important to register your cell phones, and that's what this does. I can read it kind of word for word off of here. It's register with the Code Red wireless emergency notification system to receive emergency notifications by recorded message, text message, and or email. And it's wireless. And like I said, with more and more people dropping landlines, go ahead and get registered for that. So if there's a fire or a flood or some kind of reason, shelter in place, whatever it is, the Code Red is basically a reverse 911. So if you're at work and you do have a landline, you'll get a call, nobody will answer it, you're at work. But if you've got your cell phone and you're registered under Code Red, they will notify you of what the emergency is and what the appropriate action is that they're asking you to do or take care of. And I've got some of those. If you go to the county website and you look, it's kind of hard to see from up here, but it will say Code Red. If you click on that, it's probably just a couple-minute process to go ahead and register your cell phone and get set up on that Code Red. And that's about all I've got.
Any quick questions?
Sure.
Tell us about this dog registration, dog license. I've never seen a dog license on the county yet.
I talked to the sheriff about that, and you are required to have them registered in unincorporated Gunnison. We're not going to come onto your property and look for licenses on your dogs. And one of the exemptions, I think, on whether the dog has to be restrained or not is if it's a working dog. If you're running cattle and doing that kind of stuff, you don't have to have them leashed or controlled like that. But technically, yes, you're supposed to have them registered.
Thank you.
And it does help us. We have had a number of them where we've picked up dogs, and with the photograph or the registration, we try and return the dogs to the people, call them and let them know that we've got their dog. So.
Do you have someone who is figuring out
To be honest with you, I'm not familiar with that. I know we do have an officer that we're going to be sending off to work on social media, computer crime, and that type of deal, because it's kind of a deal on its own as far as that goes. It can be very confusing and very hard to understand. But I'm not familiar with anybody they're hacking into people's computers and getting into them. And
Under the police report in the Gunnison Times.
okay,
It said something like hacking into computers, but what I didn't know was, did the person just call in and report that, which I've had mine, I've been putting my password, my Microsoft password in, and all of a sudden it gets eaten up, and you know somebody's doing something to your computer, and it's happened to me once before, and I've gone outside and caught the guy and tried to chase him down, but that
was he outside and getting onto your Wi-Fi?
this time I heard two voices outside, but for some reason that night I was a little bit cautious about running out with my cell phone, and I just didn't think in time. So I just immediately turned off my computer.
I am not familiar with that call. If that was in city limits and that, I'm not familiar with that report. So I wish I could tell you more. I'll tell you what I personally do. I don't do any banking over my computer. I live not that far from the bank, and I go down there, and I have not had a hacking or a fraud or anything like that, but I'm very wary on what I put into my computer and that. I just don't use a lot of that because we do see a lot of it.
Good.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Undersheriff Jackson.
Thank you.
You bet. Appreciate it.
Okay.